Hello, welcome to my top 6 trends in 2021. My name is Rolake Akinkugbe-Filani, and I'm currently part of the executive management team at one of Africa's leading infrastructure developers. In the past 15 years, I've worked in research, finance, investment banking, consulting, and international development with a focus on energy infrastructure. I also enjoy offering my perspectives on global markets and African business and economic news. So let's get started. Imagine an integrated market with a GDP of $3 trillion. Well, that is what the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is set to be for Africa. Not since the new Economic Partnership for Africa's Development have we seen a major Pan-African initiative that is set to transform the way we trade and do business on the continent. In 2021, 54 African countries, that's a total of 1.5 billion people, are set to begin unlimited trade with one another. Apart from helping to cut red tape and simplify customs procedures, the agreement should make it easier to export goods and services. Currently, Africa lags other regions of the world in terms of continental trade, and according to the Africa Development Bank, intra-Africa exports amount to only 16.6% of total trade. A key contentious issue is how partners to the agreement negotiate their way out of losing tariff revenues, which in some countries amount to up to 25% of fiscal revenues, or how to determine the rules of origin, which will help to determine the national source of a product. Let's just hope our African leaders have enough collective will to pull this off, but do take an interest because it is likely to be the biggest game changer in the way we do business for decades to come. My second trend is affordable and sustainable housing. In 2021, there'll be a greater push towards innovation in housing, real estate, and building technology. One of the major underpinnings of the global pandemic was just how important access to affordable and sustainable housing is. UN Habitat defines affordable housing as housing which is adequate in quality and location and does not cost so much that it prohibits its occupants from meeting other basic living costs. Put simply, the cost for the average African consumer of meeting all of the above criteria is prohibitively high, while the cost for the developer of building a quality home in a location that is connected and linked to a broader infrastructure network is also high. But without sustainable housing, there is no electricity, no health, no sanitation, and no livelihood. Industrializing the housing construction sector is necessary for filling the housing deficit of over 50 million units throughout Africa. Number 3, the private sector and social movements. Youth agitation in places like Nigeria, in Africa as a whole, and in the Black diaspora is not likely to end with the quelling of the EndSARS protests or the dumbing down of the Black Lives Matter movement. Despite social restrictions as a result of a lockdown across several countries, 2020 still saw widespread street protests against a host of governance issues. Heading into 2021, the momentum is unlikely to subside. But this time, the digital revolution will further enable grassroots social movements to emerge and thrive. And you can expect to see more activist communities online as the second wave of the pandemic hits and further social distancing restrictions take root. The private sector can't afford to ignore this very vocal revolution, as consumers will increasingly seek to punish brands that fail to take a stand on key social issues affecting millennials and Generation Z. Number 4 trend, Biden-Harris Africa policy. There is no doubt that US-Africa policy has taken a backseat for a number of years. Under Obama, 11 African strongmen clung to power, while under Trump, the subversion of human rights on the continent somewhat worsened, never mind the disparaging ways in which Trump himself often referred to Africa and Africans. The continent will most definitely look to the US to help amplify and protect human rights across Africa. However, whatever policy it pursues, remember that the ultimate aim would be to contribute to American growth and prosperity first, as has been the case under previous Democratic and Republican administrations. Nevertheless, the Biden-Harris campaign document does promise a change in tone and the revival and reinvigoration of diplomacy. One thing is certain though, US energy policy under Biden-Harris is likely to be focused on the impact of climate change and could curb American oil exports significantly in 2021, which would of course be welcomed by Africa's OPEC members if it successfully helps to support prices. You can hear more about this in my forthcoming Global Energy Outlook. Number 5, Sustainable finance. Capital market and financial sector reforms that trailed the financial crises of the last decades clearly helped to underpin the strength of banks in weathering the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic reasonably well. And many banks actually played a crucial part in stabilizing economies and transmitting government stimulus and relief programs in many parts of the world. But while the economic consequences of the pandemic are not on the same scale as those during the global financial crisis from 2008 to 2010, they are still notable. In addition to the financial fallout as a result of COVID-19, the pandemic is actually helping to reshape the global banking industry on a number of dimensions. It's ushering in a new competitive landscape, it's stifling growth in some traditional product areas, and it's prompting a new wave of innovation, such as recasting the role of branches, and of course, accelerating digitization in almost every sphere of banking and capital markets. It is now abundantly clear that COVID-19 has acted as a catalyst for digitization. And in addition to accelerating digital adoption, the crisis has also served as a litmus test for banks' digital infrastructure. I think sustainable finance will increase in 2021 as many corporates and projects actually attract climate-related finance. Goldman Sachs, for instance, estimates that it will deploy almost $900 billion across investing and financing and advisory activities for sustainable finance themes such as climate transition and inclusive growth. And finally, female leadership in 2021. According to the Harvard Business Review, countries with women in leadership have suffered 6 times fewer confirmed deaths from COVID-19 than countries with governments led by men. Not long after the news of COVID-19 broke around the world, it became clear that it would be a health crisis of pandemic proportions. But it also became apparent early on that there was much more at risk than health. While men were more likely to die from the virus by the numbers, women have actually disproportionately experienced the social and economic effects of the pandemic. But as COVID-19 has made inequities in the system all too apparent, it has also opened up opportunities to reframe leadership. From Germany to New Zealand and Denmark to Iceland, women leaders have shown clarity, empathy, and strong communication in their decisions and policies during the pandemic. Numerous pieces have dug into the individual strengths, celebrating Angela Merkel's data-driven trustworthiness, Jacinda Ardern's empathetic rationality, and Tsai Ing-wen's quiet resilience. Kamala Harris's emergence as Vice President-elect of the US has reignited recognition of just how crucial female leadership will be to the post-COVID-19 recovery. Many frontline workers in the battle against COVID-19 are women, and more are training as physicians. Do countries do better because they have women in charge? Or is it that countries have women in charge because they were already doing better? Ultimately, those in charge will be judged on how they manage the crisis, and 2021 will be the year of reckoning. Next, watch out for my video on the global energy transition in 2021, and you can follow me across all social media platforms, including my YouTube channel at Rolake Akinkugbe. And please subscribe if you like what you heard. See you next time.